Good morning, elementary. How is everyone? I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're excited and ready for another chapel day. And wasn't it awesome to be able to be back together after Christmas break, finally back in our new gym? Wasn't that fun just to be able to sing together again and on our new gym floor? It's so nice, isn't it? Well, I'm glad to be able to see I was glad to be able to see your faces because I see you in the hallway kind of rushing back and forth, but that's it. So it was nice to see your singing and smiling faces. Well, we are going to talk about a very interesting lesson today. But I think in my mind, it can kind of coincide with the lessons that we've talked about the past couple of weeks. Remember, 2 weeks ago, we talked about frequency, right? Being on the right frequency so that we can hear from God and know what He wants us to do, to be on the same wavelength with Him. And we do that by reading His Word. Then last week, we talked about being the what? I think some of you said it, being the right vessel, right? That we are the vessel that God uses to be able to pour out the Holy Spirit for other people to see. So are you being the right vessel that God's going to be able to use? And are you on the right frequency? Have you been reading His Word so that you are choosing to live the life that He calls you to live? Well, like I said, today's lesson is going to slightly go along with that. I'll tie them together in a little bit, but you might not catch it at first, but we'll see. But today's leprosy is about a word that when that word was spoken, it brought fear to all people in Bible times that heard that word. That word would just kind of shock people and they would start to back away because they were so afraid. And that word that made the people in the Bible times so afraid was the word leprosy. Leprosy was an awful thing. It was a horrible sickness, a horrible disease, and it did so many terrible things to the people who had it. It was an awful disease that put big sores, ulcers they call them, but sores that would be all over your body. I don't want to talk about what the sores really look like because it makes me want to gag a little bit. We're just going to swallow that down. But put awful sores all over the people's body. The sores would open up. Many times infection would get in, but those sores were they never got better. They were slowly eating away at the people's skin, at the nerves of those people. And so eventually, maybe the people would lose their fingers and they would have just a stump on their hand, like at the end of their arm. They would have a stump at the end of their leg because it would eat away at their toes and their feet. They wouldn't be able to walk very well and they wouldn't be able to move very well because they would be maimed, which means they would lose parts of their bodies to this awful, horrible disease. Also, another horrible thing about this disease is that once you got this disease, if you were found out to have leprosy, you had to get out. The law said you have to leave your house. You can no longer live with your family. You have to go outside of even the city, not just outside the house, outside the whole entire city, and be outside those city walls and live with a bunch of other people who have leprosy like you. Those are the only people that you could talk to, that you could do anything with. You could not come into the city. Well, how did they get food? And if they did have to go to, I don't even know how that took place. That's a good question. But if they did go into the city for something, they also had to do something else that I would find horribly embarrassing. They would have to say, unclean, I'm unclean. Don't come near me. I have leprosy. He's got leprosy. Get away, get away. Let him go through. Let him go through. Go by. Just don't even stop. Don't even breathe near me. They were so afraid of that awful disease because of all the terrible things it did. And people that got leprosy, they pretty much knew, I'm probably not going to live after much longer because it's just going to eat away at my organs. It's going to eat at my nerves. It's going to cause a lot of problems. And so people with leprosy were made to go live outside the city. They couldn't live with their families. How lonely. They were in so much pain because these awful sores were eating away at their bodies. How horrible. And then they had to yell and tell everybody that they were unclean. How embarrassing. You think about, what if you had to come to school and go, I have a cold, stay away. I have a sickness, I have this disease, I have the flu, like how awful and embarrassing it would be if everywhere you went, you had to tell people, I have this problem, I have that problem, okay? That would be an awful thing. But that's what these poor people had to do. And they lived outside the city and they were not allowed to go in. Now, maybe some of you are sitting there going, they can't make me leave my house. I'm going to stay in my house and they can't do anything about it. I'm not yelling unclean and embarrassing myself. No, I can do whatever I want. Okay, fine. You might think that. But if anybody found out that you had leprosy and you didn't say something, the law said that the people of the town, the city that you lived in, they could all come around you and stone you, which means the people would gather all around you and they would pick up stones and throw them at you until you died. So you had to tell people that you were a leper or else you would be stoned to death. You were going to die from the leprosy or you're going to be stoned to death. And it was just a horrible existence. Well, one day, Jesus was preaching in the town of Galilee. And as he was preaching in Galilee, there was a man that came up to him, a leper, somebody that was unclean. And you know what? It's kind of interesting because this leper was so focused, he forgot, I'm supposed to yell unclean and I'm supposed to not even be in the town because people were standing by. You see that there were other people around and they're like, oh, he's coming in the town. What is he doing? He shouldn't be here. And he should be yelling unclean. There maybe even were thinking about, I'm going to go find some stones and I'm going to stone this guy. Like, it was crazy that he just didn't even worry about any of these people around him. He was so focused on Jesus. And he went right to Jesus and he knelt down and he worshiped him. And he said, Lord, if you want to, Jesus, I believe that if you want to, you could make me clean. That's how much faith he had. He went to Jesus and said, you can make me clean if you want. That's how much trust he had. And Jesus looked on him with pity because this man was so ragged and so awful looking and so pitiful looking that Jesus did have pity on him. And he did something that shocked everybody around. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man and said, I do want to make you clean. Be thou clean. And Jesus shocked everybody because they looked and they thought, what did he just do? What did Jesus do? He touched the unclean. Do you understand? Leprosy was contagious. If you touch somebody with it, you got the leprosy. Now it's going to be on Jesus. What in the world? Why would he do that? How did God make the world? He just spoke, right? So Jesus could have said, hey, buddy, good. I'm so glad that you think that I can heal you. Why don't you stay there? And I'm going to ask God, please heal this man. Okay, let me see. Okay, I think okay, you're healed. Hi, nice to meet you. No, he could have run away and just spoken, but he didn't. Jesus wasn't afraid of leprosy. He reached his hand out and the people went, oh, what is he doing? And he touched the man and he said, I do want to make you clean, be thou clean. Jesus wasn't afraid of leprosy. Healing poured from his body and healed this man. And all of a sudden, this man looks down and he's completely healed immediately. It didn't like slowly go away. No, it was just gone. What in the world? I have no more leprosy. The leprosy was gone from his body. Well, back in Bible times, this man could hardly believe it, but back in Bible times, once a person was, felt that maybe the leprosy was gone, that they were free of the leprosy, they had to go and show themselves before the priest. And the priest would check them over, check behind their ears, and check their neck, and open your mouth. Let me see in your throat, make sure there's no leprosy in there. Check under your arms, and let me see your feet. And they had to check the person and say, okay, you're good, you're clean. You can go and be free and do whatever you need to do, because there's no more leprosy in you. So Jesus told the man, I want you to go and show yourself to the priest and see if the priest declares you clean, and then you can go home. But don't tell anybody. Just quietly go on your way to the priest and tell him. Well, you have to think, if this man's leprosy is gone, he can go home. He can go to the store. He can go back in the city. He can go anywhere he wants now. He used to have to be able to sit outside the town and just sit with all of his friends that were just like him, and it was just a sad place to be. Now he could go anywhere. So when he was healed, he tried to keep it to himself, but guess what happened? He couldn't keep it in. He went around and he was so happy about what Jesus has done. He told everybody. He's just like, hey, remember me? I'm the one that had leprosy. I was yelling unclean and you couldn't come near me. Look at me. Look at me. Look behind my ears. Look at my mouth. Look, I'm all clean. Look at my feet. And no, we don't want to see your feet. The rest of you is fine. That's good. Okay. I'm clean. I'm whole. Look what Jesus did. Well, because he told his friends, and then they told other friends, and then other friends told other, it spread quickly all around that Jesus had healed this leper. And guess what happened then? Once people heard what Jesus had done, they all wanted to come to see Jesus. He healed that leper. I remember seeing him. He healed him. Maybe he can heal my son. Maybe he could heal me. Maybe he could heal my grandma, my grandpa. They were bringing aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers and everybody to him to be healed. And Jesus got to the point where there were so many people coming that it was stopping him from doing his real work, which was to tell people about God. And he ended up not even going back into the cities to preach any longer. He went into the countryside so that he could still do the things he was supposed to, but still flocks and flocks of people came to him because they wanted to be healed, because they saw the great things that Jesus did. Well, pretty cool story, right? It's not done yet because I want to share something really quickly, and hopefully I'm not going to take too much longer. But leprosy in the Bible was a picture many times of sin. It was a picture that showed kind of the uncleanness, the awfulness, the disgustingness of sin in our lives. Leprosy was contagious. It spread quickly, not only throughout a person's body, but it spread if you're touching someone. A leper was totally put out of their home, out of their towns. They could no longer be with their families or anything. And then it spread through the body, and it would spread from their feet up to their hands, up to their legs, up to their faces. It ate away at the body, and it blinded people and crippled them so that they couldn't walk and they couldn't use their hands. Well, as we think of sin, guys, you know what? Sin is contagious too. We don't think about it, but when we allow sin into our lives, it affects other people around us. There's some times where I'll see, one person decided to talk out when the teacher said not to talk. Well, then what happens afterwards? Then one talker turns to two talkers, which turns to 4, 5, 8 talkers. Now everybody's just kind of chatting around. That sin of talking out when you weren't supposed to, that affected a whole bunch of people. And it allowed the whole class to think, oh, it's okay. It's just one little thing. Maybe a boy or a girl thinks that it's just a little sin. Oh, I'm just going to take this thing without permission. I know Miss Monroe doesn't want us to take toys outside, but I'm going to hide it in my pocket. She's not even going to know that I have it. I'll play with it off in the corner somewhere, and it's not going to be a problem. Oh no, but that's a sin because you didn't obey. You didn't do what's right. And then maybe Miss Monroe finds out about it, and I ask, did you take that? No, I didn't. I don't have anything. I didn't. Oh, so now not only did you do that sin where you took something that you shouldn't have, or maybe it's just taking something from the classroom. Maybe it's taking something from a friend's backpack. Maybe it's taking something that doesn't belong to you, even at home, maybe taking a cookie out of a cookie jar. It could be something that small. But when you do that, you're sinning. And then if somebody asks you if you did that, and then you tell, oh, a little lie. Oh, what are you talking? I don't know what you're talking about. Now you've lied and you've taken something that you shouldn't have taken. And by the way, when you lie, guess what has to happen? Once you lie that first time, you have to lie to cover up the other lie. No, I didn't. Well, so and so said, no, well, they saw me, but they I think they said they thought they saw me take it out, but I really didn't take it out. Wait. And then you have to tell another lie to cover up those two lies. And eventually you just get caught in a web of lies. And sometimes we get so caught up in those webs that we don't even see that leprosy, that sin is spreading and getting further and farther. It starts here and now it's going to our hearts and our minds, and we're just like, and now anytime somebody, no, I never did anything like that. And it just becomes easier to lie. It becomes easier to take something that doesn't belong to us because I did it before and it never really, oh, Miss Monroe's never going to know. Oh, Miss Phelan's never, Mrs. Nichols isn't going to care. Oh, it's fine. Mrs. Gallucci, no, she doesn't, what she doesn't know won't hurt her. We tell those lies, and then it gets easier and easier and easier to lie. We tell those untruths. Oh, Mrs. Colby doesn't, she's not going to know. It's going to be okay. And we think it's okay. And then eventually we start to continue to do the wrong thing and continue, and then it gets worse and it spreads. Not just to other people, because it will spread to other people in the classroom, but it's going to spread throughout us. It's going to spread throughout our bodies, and it's going to cause us to have a big problem, because it starts out small, but it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And guess what? Just like with leprosy, if you don't take care of it, which they couldn't back then, leprosy is still around today. It's just not as prevalent, but there's not a cure, but there are ways that people can tame it and be careful with it. But guys, with sin, there's not a cure for sin, but there is a healing for sin. And that healing comes through the one person that this leper knew, through Jesus Christ. You should not allow lying, cheating, stealing, unkindness, talking back, fooling around. You shouldn't allow those to come into your life, because they might start out as something little, but they're going to grow and they're going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to get easier and easier. And pretty soon you're not even going to realize that your whole body is covered. You might be able to hide that one little leprosy spot. Oh, nobody's going to know. I'm just going to put on clothes that they won't see my leprosy spots. Well, when you keep on with that leprosy, it doesn't go away. If you don't ask forgiveness for those sins that you do, they don't go away, and they just get bigger and bigger. And eventually, those are going to be seen. If they're not seen by people around you, God sees them all. Are you going to let that leprosy, that leprous sin live in you and stay in you? Or are you going to go, I don't want that. I have a problem with talking back to the teacher. I have a problem with taking things that I shouldn't. I have a problem with the wrong attitude. I have a problem with lying. I have a problem with cheating. I need to go and talk to my teachers, talk to my parents, ask people to pray with me, because Jesus is the only one that can heal that disease of sin, that leprosy, and take it away. Well, next week, we're going to talk about some more lepers. And there's something interesting that happens with these. And some of you may already know the story, but do not share it with your friends. Do not tell them. We'll find out next week what happens. But boys and girls, think about your life today. Is your life leprous with sin that you are allowing to stay in you? Or are you going to go, you know what? I need to get that taken care of. That's not good. It's going to destroy me from the inside out. Don't let sin destroy you from the inside out like leprosy does to people. Get that healing from the Lord Jesus, because if you ask him, Lord, I know you want to make me clean. Please make me clean. He will. All right. I gotta go. I'm taking too long, and I'm sorry, teachers, but I hope that you guys learned something from this, and I hope that you will be very careful about not letting that leprous sin stay in your bodies, and we'll find out some more about leprosy next week. All right, you guys be great. Have a wonderful day. Love you guys.